Welcome and thank you for tuning in. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are not yet subscribed. Please share the video and give it a thumbs up if you like it. Now today I will be going through a question of sorting values, integer values in ascending order. So this is one of the questions in my C++ loops exercises and solution. I will post a link to that video on the description below so that you see more. There are more questions there, and this question that I'm going to be explaining and breaking down in this video, which I'll be showing you how to swap two values, how to sort values in ascending order, and why you have to use a loop in this solution. So in the video that I will post a link in the description below, I used a while loop on that solution. In this solution I'm going to use a for loop. So let us get into the video. I have already created a C++ file here. So this is the name of the file, sorting.cpp. Obviously it has to be a .cpp for it to be recognized by the C++ compiler. The first line there is importing the IOStream header file for using cin, cout, and endline without having to specifically write that std. I include the using namespace there. And then you obviously need an int main, the return 0 to indicate that the code has ran completely. Now let us first understand swapping, how to swap two integer values. Now I'm just going to put a comment there so that you can keep that in your mind and understand. So I will try to be as slow as possible here, but straight to the point so that the video is a little bit short. So I will initialize two values here. I will call that num1, which stands for number 1. I'll assign that to 554, and then int num2, I will assign that to 116. Then how to swap these two values now? So you can just assign 116 to num1 and then 554 to num2. That's what we want to do. So the first thing that I would like to maybe demonstrate here is to show you that a variable, right, it's a container of a value. So if I see out num1, you should just see 554 there, and then if you see out num2, you should see 116 there. So these are containers. Now what we want to do is to swap num1 and num2 values. So we want num1 to have 116, num2 to have 554. Then let us do that. So one thing you have to do is just to assign num1 to num2, num2 to num1. So I'm going to say num1 is equals to num2, and then num2 is equals to num1. Now it looks like that. However, let us check now if we have swapped those two values. Let's look at what num1 is. So num1 was initialized to 500. Now we are expecting to get that 100 now. Now let us go. So it's 116. Num1 we have successfully swapped. It now contains 116 based on that, because what we have done is that we have overridden what was inside num1, which was 500, by what is inside num2, which is 116. Now let us see if here now we have 500 instead of 116. Num2, let me see out num2. So here we still have 116. Now what happened there? So since code execution is strictly from up, down, each line, so here we already know what the values are inside these two variables. In line 11, we assign num1 to the value inside num2, which is 116. So at this point here, both these variables, they contain 116 because what's inside num2 is 116. After executing this line, what's inside num1 is now 116. When you get to the next line, what you will be assigning in num2 is what is inside num1, which is no longer 554, but after this line it is 616. So you are merely assigning 116 to a variable that already contains 116. So we are overriding by the same number. That is why num2 is still 116. So after this line, we have lost 554, which is why now for swapping, you need a third variable, right? So I will assign, I like to call it a temp, because in my mind, it is a temporary variable. So what this does is that you will then store in temp the number of the variable that you will override first, which is num1. Because in this line, I will override 554 with 116. I want to keep 554 in that variable temp. Now, once we override num1 by num2, we have not lost that 554 because it is stored in temp. And then instead of assigning num2 to num1, I then, because num1 is 116 now, I want to assign it to temp, because temp still contains that 554. And then now you will see that when I see out num2, it will be 554. So there, that's how you swap values around. You need a third variable for that. So you store the value of the variable that you will override first, then you assign it to the second variable. So num1, override it with num2, then num2 cannot be overridden by num1 because they contain the same value now. However, the value of num1 was already stored here on the line before line 12. Then you take temp, assign it to num2, then you have swapped those two values. You'll see now that num2 was initially assigned to 116, but when you see out, it is 554. Then if you see out num1, it was initially 554, but now it is 116. There, swapping done. Now, once you understand swapping now, let us go to our exercise, which is what? Sorting the numbers that we are given in ascending order. Now, ascending order quickly means that they are increasing, right? Sorting numbers in an increasing order from the lowest to the biggest number, right? Sorting in ascending order. Right. Let's go. So now let us say we wanted to sort these two numbers, right? 554 and 116 in ascending order. So obviously, how we have to do that is to what? See out num2, because num2 is the smallest value, and then see out num1, right? If you run that, you will see that they're in ascending order. Now let us say you are given a different input now. Let us say this is now 1,116. If you run that, now your logic here does not work. It fails, right? Because now that's not in ascending order, right? You have a big number, then a small number. Now we need a logic here to say, no matter how you give us the input, this logic will take that input. If it's not already in ascending order, it will sort it in ascending order. So that's what we want to do. The first thing I want to decide is that I want to keep this meaning of this variable. Num1 must be the lowest number. Num2 must be the biggest number. So this here must stay static, because you've seen that we cannot change it with changing input. It has to remain like this. Num1 must be the smallest value. Num2 must be the biggest value. Then our logic here will make sure that whatever input that you write on those two variables, it will sort it and then it will put it in ascending order. Now, let us write that sorting algorithm. Now, what I want to do is to take my two inputs, check. If num1 is bigger than num2, then that's not in ascending order, because line 14 wants to make sure that num1 is small, num2 is big. Now you want to check if num1 is bigger than num2, they are not in ascending order. So what do you need to do? You need to then swap them. This is where then that swapping logic comes in. So as I've said, you need a temporary variable, store your num1 or num2, whichever one you will override first, right? Then assign num1 to the value in num2, then the value in num2, assign it to temp. Now they are swapped around, right? Now this will always make sure that however way or whichever way your input variables, which is num1 and num2, they are assigned, it will always output them in ascending order. So if num1 is bigger than num2, it will swap them. However, if num1 is smaller than num2, this check here will fail. This if statement will not be met, so this scope will not be executed. It will just see out them. In this case, they are in ascending order, right? So the if statement will not be met. It will see out them properly, 554 and then 116. Now let us swap those values around and say this here is here, then 554. This will not be matter. Sorry, this will not matter because this condition will be met, because now num1 is definitely bigger than num2. 1116 is definitely bigger than 504. So our condition will evaluate to true. Then we will execute this. This will swap the two values. After this execution, it will make sure that num2 is in num1 and num1 is in num2. Then we will still get the ascending output. As you can see, there is your ascending value. Now it gets a little bit complicated, but not really. Once you understand that if statement and that swapping, then nothing really gets complicated after here. Whether you can add 4, 5, 7 numbers after that, doesn't matter. But I'll add the third one now so that I can show you why we need a loop once we have more than two values. So I'll just add num3 now. Maybe assign that to 74, 75, doesn't really matter. Then I will have maybe my 116 back. Now you have three values, and how you want to sort these variables, you obviously want to compare all the variables together and figure out the position of each. So that means you must take num1, compare it to both num2 and num3, take num2, compare it to num1 and num3 and num1, take num3, compare it to num1 and num2. Now with this logic here, right, there's no need to do that, because if I compare num1 and num2 and then I know that num1 and num2 is, or num2 is bigger than num1, I swap those, and then I compare num2 and num3, I swap those, right? So you have done the first iteration, which ones in some cases you will get that right, and then on some cases it will not sort it completely. Now what I meant by comparing all of them, because if you want to compare all of them, you have to write each if statement for that, but I'll show you that there is no need for that. That's where the loop comes in. But let us use our little logic here quickly, and then let us compare num2. If num2 is bigger than num3, we also want to sort those, right? Int temp num2 and then num2 is equals to num3, and then num3 is equals to temp. Then we have sort those around, right? Those are sorted, and then let's see if that will sort everything. Clear, run that. Okay, I did not include num3 on the C out. And then see, they are not in a correct order, right? So what it did is that it swapped. Num1 is now 116, num2 is 75, and num3. So it swapped these last two values. So what happened is that it came here. So it said is 116 greater than 554? No. So that evaluated to false. Then it did not swap them. And then it came here. And then it said is 554 greater than 75? Definitely. And then it swapped these two. So you can see that, right, it made only one comparison in each. So it compared num1 to num2 and then num2 to num3. That's not enough. Each variable must be compared to both of those variables. Now you can write more if statements for that, right, which is fine, it will work, but there's no need for that, right? Let me show you. Maybe if we swap this, put it here, and then put 116 here. Let's see if that sorts them correctly. Still not. And then this is definitely bigger than. Okay, then 75 will be swapped, because what it did now is that it said is 554 greater than 16. Yes, it is. It swapped those two. So that's why num1 has 116, and then it said is 75 is 554 greater than 75. Yes, it then swapped them around. So this is why you need a loop for this, so that now after this output here, which you are seeing 116, 75 and 554, you then need to then do the comparison again, so that you make sure that each number is compared to both numbers, right, as I've said in the beginning. Now let us then run this again with this new sorted numbers. So num1 will assign that to 116, assign num2 to 75, assign num3 to 554. Then now if you run this, you'll see that it will sort it correctly. So this is where the loop comes in. As you've seen, I ran this first time, and then I took these numbers exactly as they are, assigned it to the variables, and then it gave me the correct one. So why I showed you that is to tell you that when you have 3 numbers, your loop must run twice. When you have 4 numbers, your loop must run 3 times. When you have 10 numbers, your loop must run 9 times. When you have 20 numbers, your loop must run 19 times. So the logic for your loop iteration is number of inputs minus 1. Now let us then Control Z that to our initial state of the numbers. Now I will give you the full solution. Run that. It's not in ascending order. Now what you want to do is to introduce a loop, whichever loop you want to use here. So in this case I'm using a for loop, but on the video that you would have watched, that I've included the link on the description below for, you'll see that I used a while loop there. So an int I for iteration, I'll start this at 1, and then my condition will be less or equals to 2, and then I'll increment I by 1. So what this does is that it will initialize I to 1. It will come check the condition. Is 1 less than 2? Yes, it is. That's met. It will execute first time, which will sort this input into 116, 75, and 54. Then this is obviously num1, num2, and num3. Then it will come back on the second iteration. It will increment this by 1, which now I will be 2. It will then come to the condition, is 2 less than 2? No. And then go to the next one. Is 2 equals to 2? Yes. The condition is met. It will execute for the second time, which will sort this input now into the correct ascending order. Then it will increment it to 3. Is 3 less than 2? No. Is 3 equals to 2? No. It will fail. Condition not met. It exits your for loop, and then it will see out our correct ascending order. Let me run that. Now it is 75, 116, and 554. That is how you sort numbers. So for however numbers now you sort in the question on the video that I'm telling you about, I had 5. The question said sort 5 numbers, so you can just put random numbers there. Then what you need to account for now is 4 and 5. So I'll duplicate this twice. So as I've said on this solution, you don't need to compare each number to all the 4. The for loop will do it for you. So now I'm on 3. 3 is 3 greater than position 4. If yes, then I want 3 to be kept on that temporary variable. So the one that is kept on the temporary variable, I override it first, and then this is 4. Then the second one is overridden by the number in the temp variable, which is the value inside 3. And then same thing here. This will be 4 and 5. Then I will take the number in position 4 and store it in temp, and then override 4 with the number in 5. Then the number in 5 will be overridden by the number in temp, which is the number in 4. Then you are done. Let me remove my comments. So whichever numbers you put here now, it won't matter. It will sort everything properly in ascending order. Sorry, I had highlighted that. So it runs what I've highlighted. What did I do? I did not include 4 and 5 on the C out. So I'll duplicate that twice as well. This will be 4. And then that will be 5. Save and then run. And there, right, that's my input. 75, 116, 500 and 500. 54 comes first, 75 fourth, and then 7,000. Then let me include another random numbers. So it doesn't matter what you input there, it will sort them in their ascending order. 1,400, 5,400, 5,700, 7,400, and then 7,000. So these were the closest. 7,400, 7,005. It's sorting them. So that's all you had to understand with the sorting question. The swapping first, obviously you need to understand the condition, right? Swap that, and then once you swap that, then because each number must be compared to all the numbers so that you figure out where it fits, and then that loop will do it for you. Remember, now sometimes it obviously, just like on the 3 numbers, if they are input in a certain way, it might work the first time, right? Depending on how they are input. So sometimes you do not need all the iterations, which is where now if you want to make your algorithm to be optimized or quick, you check here at the end. Check when the values are in ascending order, then break your loop. However, I'm not going to do that because most of the subscribers in the channel are university students and colleges, and that's what the channel is meant for. So I can do this optimization or check at the end if you guys request it, but for now I don't want you guys to stress with that. Just make sure that this is number of times minus 1, so that's 5 minus 1, and then your code will work every time regardless of how the input is. It will compare each number to all the inputs, and then it will sort it correctly for you, and that is the solution. I hope you understood. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you are not subscribed. I'll catch you on the next video. Thank you.